She wasn't just his mother, she was his first artistic collaborator and in many ways his creative equal. Andy Warhol famously collaborated with some of the biggest artists of the 20th century, from Jean-Michel Basquiat to Mick Jagger. But his first and arguably most important collaborator was much closer to home, his mother, Julia Warhola. The two lived together for over 2 decades, and Julia was a constant presence in Andy's formative years. Both as a parent and as a creative partner, she had a key and extremely overlooked role in shaping him as an artist. Julia was born into a peasant Carpatho-Rusyn family, and at just 17 she married Andrew Warhola, who fled to the States in 1912 to avoid conscription into the Austrian-Hungarian army during World War I. In 1921, she joined him in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Here the two had 3 children, Paul, John and Andy, and it was in her youngest son that she realised a unique creative talent, one which she nurtured throughout the rest of his life. But Julia herself was no stranger to creativity. She loved to draw angels and cats, she embroidered, and she made faux flower bouquets from empty soup cans, many of which were eaten by Andy as a child at the kitchen table. It was in this domestic setting that Andy became really inspired by these ubiquitous objects that were owned by virtually every American household, undoubtedly laying the groundwork for his later obsession with these iconic consumer goods. Their artistic partnership flourished during the 1950s when the pair moved to New York, and it was while living in an apartment on East 57th Street that they adopted a cat named Hester. When they realised that having one simply wasn't enough, they began adopting more and more until they had a full cat colony, 25 in total. This whimsical arrangement gave rise to one of their earliest collaborations, which was a book of lithographs titled 25 Cats Named Sam and One Blue Pussy. Andy created the illustrations and Julia contributed her distinctive calligraphy that gave the book its charm. The name Sam appeared next to nearly every colourful cat in the series of 16, except for one, Hester, who was given the title One Blue Pussy. At the same time, Andy was making a name for himself as a commercial illustrator. His unique aesthetic, which combined block colouring with bold outlining and Julia's playful script, caught the attention of brands and editors alike. Andy turned to his mother again in 1955 when the I. Miller & Shoe Company commissioned him to make the La Recherche de Perdu series to market their relaunch. This was a clever nod to Proust's In Search of Lost Time. Each of Andy's camp kitten heels and stilettos were accompanied by Julia's inscription, which sometimes described the visual appearance of the shoe, and at other times had a more whimsical tone to emphasise the distinct personalities of each heel, which were just as unique as the woman who might wear them. Some of these inscriptions included, "You can lead a shoe to water, but you can't make it drink." Julia's captions really helped to elevate this campaign into a collector's series. They gave the shoes an animated quality, which spoke to the importance of consumer goods to American culture, something that would later become a hallmark in Andy's oeuvre. Their collaboration continued in 1957 with a gold book, which was a portfolio that Warhol would send to potential employers. Once again, Julia's handwriting accompanied these illustrations to give them a distinct but unpretentious feel, reflecting the tone that Warhol himself emulated in his own brand of pop culture commentary. As Warhol's fame grew, the nature of their collaboration changed. Julia took a step back from inscribing his works and instead began to star in his experimental films. In Mrs. Warhol of 1966, she played an aging movie star reminiscing over her previous husbands in a surreal performance that blurred the lines between fine art and biography. Despite her devout Catholicism and traditional values, she remained supportive of her son's lifestyle and his circle of factory friends and the boundary-pushing persona that he carefully curated. Julia returned to Pittsburgh towards the end of her life and spent the last 18 months of her life in a nursing home in Pittsburgh. After her passing in 1972, Warhol created a series of her portraits, which were a poignant remembrance of her character. She wasn't just his mother, she was his first artistic collaborator and in many ways his creative equal. Long before the celebrity portraits, the silk screens and the factory tables, it was Julia Warhola who nurtured the young boy sketching at the kitchen table. And without her influence, encouragement and talent, the Andy Warhol that we know today might never have existed.